Hi everyone! So today is Friday and it's another how-to video, and today's is going to be a beaded bracelet, but instead of it being in a similar style to the necklace that I did, I'm going to do it on a chain. So it's going to be individual beads on a chain. So let's get on and start. For this design, the things you're going to need are a selection of pliers and some wire cutters, a bead board to organise your design on, a length of chain, some head pins, a lobster clasp, 2 jump rings and a selection of beads. The first thing you need to do is to cut your wire to length, and the way I like to do this and works for me is to measure it to the length of your wrist. So wrap the chain around your wrist so that it fits exactly, maybe 1 link longer than you need it, and separate the chain out like so that you're left with 1 length. And the reason I do it exactly to fit around your wrist is that by the time you've added the findings, it will be slightly longer anyway and should fit perfectly. Once you've got your length of wire, take the 2 ends, put them together and go down the length until you find the middle link. That middle link you place on the centre point of your bead board and spread out your chain. You can then take your beads and lay them out in the design that you think is pleasing to your eye. Totally personal preference, whichever order you want them in. So I think that's a nice collection along the length of the chain. And the next thing you need to do is thread each one of these onto head pins. These are the head pins that I'm going to use. They are shorter than the ones that I've used in the past, and that's because I'm only putting 1 bead on, so it seems pointless to use longer ones and then just be wasting the wire. They are exactly the same as the previous ones. They've got a flattened end to stop the beads falling off. We can now work our way along, threading each of these onto a head pin. Now they are all ready to make loops in the top. The way I'm going to create the loop in the head pin above the bead is to just grip the wire with my pliers and bend the wire over to the side. I'm not looking for a full 90-degree angle. It's just so that it's over to the side. Taking a pair of mandrel pliers, firmly grip the head pin and position the smaller mandrel end just above the bend that you've just created, and then you're going to push the head pin back around that mandrel. Slightly reposition your pliers and pull that head pin back further across. Taking your flush cut pliers, place them in the loop and cut off the excess wire. You're then left with a looped head pin and a bead ready to be attached to the chain. I'm now going to do that for all of these. So I'm halfway, and it is definitely a little bit of a fiddly job, but it is well worth taking your time and perfecting the little loops at the top just so that they look as best that they can when they're attached to the chain. Now there are times when getting your wire cutters in to cut the excess off is a little bit difficult. So the way to overcome this is to take a pair of pliers and just bend the bit that you've just curled over out to the side, and then judge where the loop finishes, and it just makes it easier to cut the end off. And it doesn't matter that the loop is open, leave it like that because it will help when attaching it to the chain. That's all of them completed, and we can now get on and attach them to the chain. And I'm going to start by doing the center chain to the center link. And the reasoning behind doing this is so that I've got the same amount of chain on either side. I can add the beads on to every other link, and by the time I get to the end, if I've got too many beads to too many links, which I think I might have in this design, I can just leave 2 of the beads off and not have to worry about it. It just makes it even all over. So we'll start with the center. We take the center link, just remeasure and make sure that it is central, yeah. Take the center link and the center bead, and this is one of the ones that's all, the loop is already open, so I'll thread it on, and then I take my pliers and twist the loop on the head pin closed. So there you go, the first bead attached. Now sometimes there can be a little bit of a gap in the head pin where you've twisted it round, so just take your pliers and squeeze that a little bit more closed so that it's securely attached. There we go, fully attached and it's secure. So let's carry on and attach all the others. Like I said, I'm going to put the beads on every other chain link just so that they're not too clustered together, but it still gives it a nice effect. If you come to a bead where the head pin is still closed after cutting off the excess, like with the others, you take your plier, you open them up, and then attach it to the chain and close it again. At this stage, it's probably worth mentioning that when you are attaching these to the chain, you need to be aware of how your chain works. And this is a side-by-side chain, that's how I refer to it. So you have one link interconnecting with the next. And I try to get each bead hanging in the same direction. So off of each of the oval links, I've hung the bead from the same side. If you were to hang a bead from the other side, when it's sat on your wrist, it is not going to sit right and it might start to twist and look a bit funny. So when you're attaching the beads, make sure they're on the same side of each link that you're using, and you need to assess this on what style chain you're using. As suspected, I've got 2 extra beads that I'm not going to need, so I will just put them back in the box with the others and I will be able to use them in another project. So now all we have to do is put the lobster clasp and the jump rings on either end, and we'll have a finished bracelet. The way we're going to finish this is by taking one of our jump rings, holding it with a pair of pliers and twisting it open using another pair. Then threading the lobster clasp onto one side and threading one end, the last link of one end of the bracelet, also onto that jump ring, and then twisting the jump ring closed. And there you have the lobster clasp attached to one end. The other end, all you need to do is to take the other jump ring, open it up slightly and thread the other end of the chain onto the jump ring and close it, again just by a little twist. So here is the finished bracelet. As you can see, all the beads are evenly spaced along the length of the chain. And this is totally personal preference. I've chosen to do one on one side of the oval on every other link. You could do an extra one on the intermittent links so that you've got more on the strand, or you could put another one on the other side of the oval, so you've got one on the bottom and one on the top. Like I said, it's personal preference and it's whatever your style, however full a bracelet you want. As you go on, you could treat it like a charm bracelet and just add more trinkets and treasures that you find. So I've just put it on my wrist, and as you can see, it hangs quite nicely. They're all hanging in the one direction, and the length of it, you could take an extra link off if you wanted to, but now that I've put the lobster clasp on, it actually sits at a nice length that I'm comfortable with. So you can adjust that as you go. So here we have our final piece. And as you can see, it is absolutely perfect, as with the other pieces that I've done, for using up the odd beads that you might have. So after you've done the necklace and the earrings, if you still have the odd beads, they kind of sort of match, but not quite. They are perfect to put on a bracelet like this. I hope you enjoyed that video. I will link the other two for the necklace and the earrings in the description below, but I will be back again on Monday with my weekly update.